So being a college student, we've had to put a lot of thought into actually how we're gonna afford this place. A lot of the money that comes from this apartment actually came from summer internships, but we also had to cut back on our spending during the semester in order to make sure that we'll be able to pay rent.
That's when I knew I was like an adult, like, damn, I'm a big boy now. Like, I'm writing a check for $7,300, like, okay.
As soon as I came in and I saw the space, I knew it was ours because this had everything. So it felt like love at first sight.
That's when I knew I was like an adult, like, damn, I'm a big boy now. Like, I'm writing a check for $7,300, like, okay. Hola, welcome to my one-bedroom loft apartment in Brooklyn, New York. My name is Julian Thomas. I'm 30 years old and I live in a one-bedroom apartment here in Bushwick, Brooklyn, where I pay $2,155 a month in rent. I am a freelance publicist and I'm also a content creator where I have a YouTube channel and produce a bunch of content about my apartment. So this is a loft apartment that is about 700 square feet. I would describe my style, if this is a thing, like Brooklyn bachelor chic. I really like color. I also like affordability. My friends, we call this apartment the fish tank because even when the train goes by, like you can just look into my apartment like it's a fish tank. I've been living in New York for 13 years and I've always lived within 1 mile radius of this apartment. And I'm just so used to this neighborhood, which means I am so used to that train. Like it's to the point where it's like white noise for me. I have been living on my own since I was 23. Before I moved into this apartment, I was in, I would say maybe like a 300 to 400 square foot studio. It was like $1,300. During that time, I went from working full-time to freelancing. And when I made that jump, I saw my income grow pretty well. I feel very grateful that I had steady work during this time. I did have to borrow from my savings quite a bit, but my apartment still, fits into my budget quite well, so it works for me. I actually met the landlord years ago because I used to, go to a bunch of house parties in this building. I went to go look at an apartment here on the 4th floor, but that particular apartment was like $2,500, which was the top of my budget. And my lease in my old apartment didn't end until May, so I really wasn't too ready to move right then and there, but I became friends with the property manager during that moment. So after, like a couple months, she hits me up one day like, hey, I know the last apartment that you saw really didn't work out, but I have a new one that's on the 2nd floor. It's a lot cheaper, but there's a train right next to it, so maybe it would work for you. I think so, like come by and check it out. And so I did, and I fell in love, and I've been here ever since. I was really concerned that I was gonna have to do like a credit check. Like I still have student loans, and I was like, ooh, yeah, I don't really have the best of credit. I have cash though. Train. Can you hear the train? So I had my mom act as my guarantor, and my landlord ran, her background, and she filled out that paperwork on my behalf, which I'm very thankful for. And then also we had to obviously sign the lease, and because it's New York and it's an older building, some building infrastructure paperwork. When I moved in, I had to pay first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit, and a broker's fee. So that was about $7,300 total. I know that does seem like a lot of money to pay up front, especially for an apartment that does not have a dishwasher, but it's an investment. And over the years, this apartment has turned into my home. So I found it worth it. I mean, yeah, it was like a little hard to do, but at the same time, I worked very hard for that money. for 6 months. I saved and I had my eye on this building and on this lifestyle, and I knew that it was the beginning of something that could really set me up for more opportunities later down the road, which it has. Bushwick over the years has changed a lot. In my particular part of the neighborhood, it's right off the J train, and this part has been a little bit more reluctant to gentrification, dare I say. It's still pretty gritty for the most part. So the only rule that my landlord has when it comes to renovations is to not tear down any walls. He encourages people to get creative in their apartments. Like, no one apartment is the same in this building, which is really cool. And to be quite honest, I think he encourages it because he knows that he can get a value out of that once they leave. So right here is my kitchen. I like the fact that it's more about the function rather than the aesthetics. There is no built-in countertop space, so I had to like go garbage digging for a nice little kitchen island, which I like. So one thing I love about this apartment is that I can learn to do different DIY projects that I've seen somewhere else and try to replicate it here in my apartment and learn as I go. For instance, installing a tile backsplash. Now granted, it's not perfect, but I tried. So my whole platform is about kind of like shedding like the stigma and the stereotypes associated with like bachelors and, you know, the bachelor lifestyle. However, some stereotypes do ring true, especially what you see in my fridge. You know, it's a very bachelor fridge here. So right here is pretty much my dining area. I also like, when I work from home, I usually work from home right here. I used to have a puppy in this apartment, but obviously she grew so big, and with these stairs, it just wasn't safe for her. So she's down south with my dad. So I installed this sliding door so she can just like stay out when needed. And yeah, I liked it, so I kept it. And then also I really like to use this like cubby system under my stairs for storage. So this is my living room. My living room was upstairs. When I would have friends over, they would have to go up and down those stairs, and I didn't like that. It's a liability because those stairs can be a little slippery. I recently swapped the two, moved my bedroom upstairs and turned this into my living room. And I'm usually only in here to just watch TV, play video games, and just chill out. It's, dare I say, my man cave. I hate that word, but that's essentially what it is. So with the wallpaper, that was one of my hardest DIYs ever. I installed this by myself, which is why it looks a little crooked. I found it on Etsy and it was like really cool and creative. I'm a Leo. Granted, it's not a lion, but it's a big cat, so it's close enough. So I really like it, but installing it was really, really hard. If you are installing wallpaper, I definitely recommend you get a friend to help you. My bedroom is probably my favorite part of my apartment. It didn't used to be, because this used to be like just my bed and storage. It is like my sanctuary. After a rough day, I can just like take a shower, come up here, read a book, and go to sleep. It is amazing. I love it. So I think my favorite part about my bedroom has to be this wall that I DIY'd. I just bought some planks from a hardware store and just threw it up and slapped on some paint. And there you go. So I have a total of 29 plants, and this year I've only killed 3, which is a record for me. This apartment did not have any like built-in closets or storage, anything. So I had to be a little creative when, you know, storing my clothes. So I just bought some racks from IKEA and kind of like use it as like, dare I say, like a fourth wall almost. It does block the light from below, which actually helps me sleep a little bit more. And then obviously it's a good place to like store clothes and hang clothes and like sheets and towels and all that good stuff. So right here is my bathroom, and I have to admit I'm a little embarrassed by it because it's so outdated and in such bad shape. It's pretty bad. Like, a wall is crumbling, it's very pink, it's very old. So I definitely can't wait to kind of like put my magic to it. I know that, you know, For some people who aren't used to like city life, especially in a city like New York, the amount of money that I pay in rent might seem exuberant, but for me, I think this is a great deal, especially for the layout and the location. I can be in Lower Manhattan in 15 minutes. And also like the idea of home ownership in this city is just so expensive. So I plan on staying in this apartment for at least 2 more years, but a maximum of 4. Ideally, I would love to be able to buy a home in this neighborhood or maybe in the neighborhood over. And so I want to use like the next 2 years to build my credit, to save money. And I do know that I think 2 years is like a good time to do that, but depending on how the market goes, I'm giving myself 4 as a nice little buffer.
I definitely feel like we got a steal with our apartment, especially in London. I don't know many people who have, this much square footage and would pay this little. We have a garden, we have Greenwich Park next door, easy connection to central London. It's an amazing space. We get lots of natural light, a home office space, like just so much for the little amount that we pay. Hi, welcome to my London flat. My name is Nancy. I'm 31 years old. I live in a 2-bedroom with study apartment in beautiful London with my husband. And we pay £1,750 a month in rent, which roughly translates to $2,140 US. My husband and I were both originally from Canada. We lived in Toronto and we ended up in London because I've always wanted to leave Canada and come to Europe. So I actually moved here in 2017 to study law while my husband moved to Paris for his MBA, and then we decided between Paris and London ended up being the winner. We currently live in the beautiful Royal Borough of Greenwich. It's one of 4 royal boroughs in London, and it's located in southeast London. We chose Greenwich because it has great running trails, and my husband and I are both runners. It's very dog friendly. We're hoping to get a dog soon. There's Greenwich Park next door to us, which has amazing views of Canary Wharf and central London. And it's also very close to family. It was built in 1850 and belonged to some sort of lord in London, and it's an amazing building. It has 4 flats. Essentially, each floor occupies 1 flat. I love it because it's my style of apartment. It's old, but it's very charming. It has its little annoyances. Like, for example, we can't open some of the windows in the living room, and we can't have any handyman come look at it. Council tax, for those who don't know, is a fee that everyone has to pay whether you own a home or you're renting a home. And it helps to cover things like rubbish collection, schools, police force, like just a bunch of things to maintain your council, which in America would be like your neighborhood. So we're joining the millions of other people in the UK who will be struggling with super high utilities bill. An estate agent who I had worked with before, she reached out to me via email and said, hey, I know that your lease is about to end currently, and I have a great place that just hit the market, and I think you should look at it. As soon as I came in and I saw the space, I knew it was ours because our main criteria was we wanted a bigger space than what we had previously, and we also wanted outdoor space, and this had everything. So it felt like love at first sight. Immediately when we got back home, I emailed the estate agent and I told her, I really want this flat. And she said to me, you know, the competition is really high, so why don't you write a letter to the landlord with your offer? So that's what we did, and explained that this is where, you know, my husband and I would like to live until we eventually buy our home, hopefully start a family while we're here as well, and create lots of memories and so on. So because we moved in the middle of 2021 when the pandemic was still rife, we definitely scored a better deal on the flat and we were able to negotiate the price better. So before we moved in, we had to pay first month's rent, and then we also had to pay a security deposit, which was about 5 weeks rent, and the total was $4,610 US. So when we moved into this flat, it was completely empty. So we got a new sofa from Made, which is very popular here in the UK. We had to get new desks, new dining table, new everything. But luckily, Facebook Marketplace came in handy for us and helped, cut down some of the cost. So when you walk into our apartment, you are greeted by a beautiful entryway. We have an amazing skylight that lets in so much natural light during the day. This is the toilet, quite small, and it's far from everything else in the flat. It's right in the entryway. And every time in the middle of the night, if you need to use a toilet, you have to walk all the way across the flat, which I hate. This is the hallway. I love this space. It's very bright. I can't wait to fill it with amazing photos and artwork. And on this side, the first thing you see when you go in is my office. I work here every single day. My desk was built for me by a friend. I love all the colors. I didn't want a beige space, so I did request permission to paint my office pink because I wanted it to be very colorful. Right across the office is our spare room. It's currently being occupied by a teenage boy. My husband's cousin is staying with us for a little bit. I love it because of the amount of storage space that we have. Right across from the spare room is one of my favorite spaces in the entire flat, our kitchen. I love how big and spacious it is. The walls with this beautiful lemon Sicilian wallpaper. We did some contact paper on the counter space. We changed the shelves here. A friend of mine did those as well. It's good to have handy friends. I love this space, and this table is actually my favorite find in the entire flat. It was $2,600 originally, and we got it for £200 off Facebook Marketplace, and I love it. This cabinet, we actually DIY'd it. We got it from eBay. It was brown and another weird color, and we changed it to black, changed the handles as well, and I think it looks super stylish and fits right in here. Off the dining room, we have my ultimate favorite space in the entire house. I love it because of how light-filled it is. Every morning in the summer, usually around like 5 a.m., I come in and open the windows. I'm an early riser. My husband actually works from this space. This is his little home office setup, which is fine because he only works from home maybe like 2-3 times a week, so he doesn't need a closed office space like me. We have his little plant. He wanted to be a plant dad all by his lonesome. And my favorite piece of furniture here is our sofa, which we got from made.com. And I love how big it is. We can fit like so many people on here. And it's great to just lounge, watch Love Island or any other TV show or movie. And over here are these shelves that were actually already in the flat when we moved in. My husband is a fan of buying books that he doesn't read, so he collects them. And off the dining room, we have our master bedroom. And my favorite thing about this apartment is how much closet space we have. So we actually each get a closet. We get a top one and a bottom one. And this is a built-in vanity area. It was actually here when we moved in, and I just had to buy this little mirror and pop this chair in. And this is where I get ready every single morning. And it also just feels very 1850s, which I love. So off our bedroom is our utility room, which is not very pretty. It feels very like cave dungeony. So we kind of just use it to store everything. And we also have our dryer, which is a luxury in London. Another room that we have off the dining is our shower room, which is very odd because there's so much room and there could have been enough space to add a toilet, but they've decided not to do that. So it's just a room with our shower. So one creepy thing that we have in our flat is like some sort of dungeon under the step in the entryway. We don't go in there. My husband has gone in there once to make sure that it was walled off and that nobody would actually be coming through the house in the middle of the night. I don't really want to dig deeper to find out because I don't want to be afraid to be in my own home, but that's a fun fact about our apartment and it's very weird. So to get to our garden, unfortunately, we have to leave through the front door and walk all the way across the property to the back. So I'll take you. We're almost there. So this is our garden or backyard. I love how spacious it is. It's perfect for hosting like barbecues or any type of summer event. And one thing that we actually get as a perk in our apartment is a garage, and our garage is that one there in the corner. And it's great because no one really uses the garden, so we kind of have it to ourselves most of the time. Most people use it, just to park their cars. So it's nice to have this space here out. And then we also have Greenwich Park that is literally across like a stone throw away. So it's nice to have the option between hanging out here or in the park. I think we'll be in this apartment for probably another year or two, as our goal is to buy our own home soon. At the moment, with inflation, I don't think it's a good moment to buy in London because interest rates are pretty high. Hopefully in the next year or two, things would calm down a little bit because it's always nice to kind of own a little piece of land for yourself. We've decided to make London a permanent home because it's, the hub for everything. We have family in Nigeria, we have family in Canada, so from London we can easily travel to both countries in just under 7 hours. My role is very global, so I travel everywhere from the United States to the Middle East, Asia, so it's very easy to do that from London. It would be much harder to do that from Toronto. And we also like that London has some of the world's best schools, whether it's primary school, secondary school, universities. The weather is great, as much as, British people tend to complain. Coming from Canada when it's like minus 15 degrees most of the year, we don't mind the London weather. And fun fact, Paris is actually wetter and gloomier than London.
So being a college student, we've had to put a lot of thought into actually how we're gonna afford this place. A lot of the money that comes from this apartment actually came from summer internships, but we also had to cut back on our spending during the semester in order to make sure that we'll be able to pay rent. Welcome to my college apartment in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name is Ben Boxer. I'm 21 years old, living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in a 2-bedroom apartment. The apartment costs $2,000 a month, but my portion of that is $800 a month. What we decided to do was I would take one of the bedrooms for myself and pay $800 a month. And then my 2 other roommates would split the other bedroom and each pay $600 a month. So that way it's kind of more fairly split based on how much space we each have. So I'm a huge nerd when it comes to technology, so I really wanted to try to make this place as techy as possible. We set up all the lights so that they're smart home lights, so everything can be controlled right from my phone or by speaking to the HomePods in the corner of the room. It's been super cool for like when we have a movie night, we can dim all the lights automatically. And also it allows us to turn on and off the lights whenever we enter or leave the apartment, which has been really cool. When we were looking for a place, we knew the one thing for certain was that we all wanted to live together and we all wanted to pay less than what the dorms cost. And so we were really trying to find a place that would allow us to save a lot of money and have more space in the process, and this apartment worked perfectly. It's been super nice to actually be able to see them safely and still get to hang out, still have fun. We can still study together, which has been great. So even though this apartment is a lot more affordable than something like living in the dorm, it is a little bit challenging to manage the money, considering basically it all has to come from savings over the summer and then it gets slowly dwindled down each month. Me and my roommates have all set monthly budgets for ourselves when it comes to eating out, so that way we aren't encouraged to eat out as much and we can really track our spending and make sure that the financial situation of living in an apartment while being a student works out. Because there were so many students in this area trying to look for a place as a college apartment, we knew that we had to start very early in the process. That's why we actually started over the winter. This apartment actually came from a suggestion from a friend. They had lived here in the past and they had said this was a great place right near campus for college students, and so we checked it out and we loved it. There were enough open units for us to actually move in, and the places were really, really nice. So I think the day after our tour, we ended up signing a lease for August of 2020, and that's when we actually moved in because that's when our senior semester started. The process to actually acquire this place was super easy. Normally there's like a lot of paperwork that goes into actually getting an apartment, but for this, all we had to do was sign the lease, make those initial payments, and then I think we were good to go. So because we had planned to move in an apartment for a very long time, we had all accumulated and saved up enough money to actually cover these upfront costs. So when we signed the lease in December 2019, we had to pay an upfront cost of about $4,000. $2,000 of that was a security deposit and the other $2,000 was paying off last month's rent. And then when we actually moved in August, we had to pay our first month's rent. So I live in North Oakland in Pittsburgh, and that's right in between University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon's campuses. And so this really is very much like a college-focused area. There's a lot of restaurants nearby and it's super easy to actually access them. I actually have my own skateboard, and so I ride that thing around. So this apartment has the basic amenities. There's an elevator to the upper floors and laundry in the basement. There is a 24/7 doorman, which is kind of nice. So let's start off this tour at the end of the hallway in my bedroom. Both bedrooms are pretty large and about the same size at 12 by 15 feet, and I've utilized that space very well. I put both my bed and my desk in my room, so that's where I sleep and get most of my work done. I've also added a lot of cool techie things since I am super obsessed with technology. I have a projector in there, a whole bunch of smart lights, and it's really nice. So one of the big investments I actually made for this apartment was into my desk. I actually spent well over $7,000 on a nice desk setup to work at. And this was something that I'd saved up for well over a year. I knew as soon as Apple released their new computer, I was gonna get a new desk setup. It coincided with right around when the pandemic hit. And so now I have a really nice place to work in this apartment, get a lot of work done, and I've been super productive. You can see I have this big metal rack that Amazon actually makes, and that allows me to utilize the vertical space very well. I also installed this motion light strip at the very top of my closet. Then the other half of my closet, which you can actually access through another door in the hallway, is what I call my gear closet. You can see I've got my lighting equipment down here, tripods, got drones, GoPros, cameras, all of my lenses, ND filters. Now moving on from the bedroom, we get to our front hall foyer. Here you can see I got a nice little table. We got our pantry full of food over here. Got my roommate's bedroom down there. Even though my roommate's room is the same size as mine, because they're sharing it with 2 people, they didn't put as much stuff in there. They actually have their desks sitting in our dining room, which was converted into an office. And so that's where they actually spend most of their time working at their desks and getting homework done. Our bathroom, I'm so used to living in a dorm where a lot more people are sharing a bathroom. And so having 3 people sharing one bathroom has actually worked out pretty nicely. And then we get into our kitchen. This is a nice little cozy kitchen, so we had to figure out some ways to actually save on space in here. That's why we got things like this drying rack right here, which sits over the sink, keeps our counter space clear, as well as this magnetic knife holder right here, which allows us to have the knives ready to go for cooking, but also keep them out of the way, and I think it just looks pretty cool. So this room is really the heart of the apartment. This is where we hang out the most, where all of us just sit around. We eat our meals here. We have this massive couch, which everybody in the pod comes and hangs out on. This was actually a black IKEA coffee table, which I then covered in this like vinyl wooden flooring. We have a ton of fake plants all around the room. Got nice wooden furniture all around. So since all three of us are college students on a budget, when we were actually setting up this apartment and buying furniture for it, we were really trying to save as much money as possible and actually setting it all up. That's why most of our furniture is either purchased from IKEA at a really low price or actually brought from home. So overall, I think we got a stellar deal with this apartment. We've been really fortunate to have this experience, getting to all live together during this crazy semester. And so I'm really happy with both how much money we're saving on this apartment, how much space we get, the opportunity that we can all live together, and still getting to have as much of a college experience as possible. While it's been really nice living in this apartment, unfortunately all of us are graduating in the spring, and so we will be moving out and into our own respective places wherever we get jobs. I think I'll miss my friends the most and not so much the actual apartment, just because as soon as I graduate, I don't know if we'll ever all be in the same spot at the same time again, unless maybe one of us gets married. And so I'm really trying to enjoy that, live it up, and just have fun during my senior year.